Downbeat. I'm an upbeat optimist.
So, first of all, what do you do in your day job?
I have the coolest job in the universe. I design spaceships. I've got about 30 scientists and engineers who work with me in the office, and our job is to look at the next generation of space systems, whether that be rockets, spacecraft that have to perform some science mission. We do the upfront design to see if it's feasible, is the technology there, is it something we can actually go do. Like I said, it's the coolest job in the universe.
I know you have written popular science books for general readers, for general audience, and I know you also write fiction. How do the two mesh for you? Are you working with the same concepts and ideas in both your nonfiction and your fiction?
Well, they came about in two different ways. I've actually been a fan longer than I've studied physics or worked for NASA. I started going to conventions when I was about 17, and always decided I wanted to work for NASA and be in space. And I started giving talks at different science fiction conventions in the Southeast. And I had fans come up to me and tell me, "Les, why don't you write those down? Those are the kinds of things that people want to hear." So we did. And essentially sent in an unsolicited manuscript to Springer, went into their science slush pile. I don't know if you do Prometheus, they have a science slush pile like science fiction does. And they bought it. And after I did that, kind of took projects I had worked on in the past and that people were interested in, typically about things like advanced deep space propulsion, how we're going to go to the stars someday, those kinds of things. And as those had been written, I was in a discussion with a friend of mine who's also a science fiction writer. You may have heard of him, Travis Taylor. And Travis and I were talking about how boring NASA makes space exploration. And I have to give a caveat, I'm here on my own time this weekend. I'm not representing NASA. For anybody videotaping this for YouTube, I don't want to get in trouble. But that caught the attention of Tony Weisskopf at Bain. And she said, "Will you guys write a story about what it really can be like? Because it's really the most exciting and dangerous thing that humanity can do is to go to space." And that's how Back to the Moon was written. We really wanted to tell what the story would be like, or what we thought it might be like in 10 or 15 years to actually take that voyage, and the risks and a little bit of adventure in there. So that's how that came about.
Terrific. What do you have? That just recently come out?
That was released in hardcover last December. It'll be re-released in paperback this December. And
so real soon.
Real soon. And then I've got an anthology that I'm working on with Jack McDevitt, I've heard him mention here, about realistic stories of how we might go to the stars, interstellar travel. It's called Going Interstellar.
Excellent.
And that'll be out this spring. We've got Ben Bova, Mike Resnick, Michael Bishop writing stories for it. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Oh man, I'm so excited. I love those guys, especially, Mike Bishop. I'll read anything Mike Bishop writes. So I'd buy your book just for him,
Not for the editor, right?
No, well, and for you too now,
Okay,
you design spaceships. What else, in terms of your popular science books, would you recommend we all go out and take a look at?
Well, I do have some of them here for sale. Believe it or not, at science fiction conventions, popular science books are not usually the biggest sellers. But I brought some with me, and Zane has them for sale at his book table in there. But I would recommend probably Living Off the Land in Space. And that was my first with Greg Matloff and his wife C. Banks, who's our artist, about how we could use the resources of the solar system to actually make a sustained exploration happen. And it's kind of our vision for what we ought to be doing and how we explore space, not necessarily what we're doing now.
If there are any zombies in the audience, feast right here.
No.
Everybody, our science guest of honor, Les Johnson. And finally, we're going to introduce our guest of honor. New York Times best-selling author of the Parasol Protectorate series And the first of that series, Solace, won the American Library Association's Alex Award. Her new series for young adults is The Finishing School, and it's coming out in 2012. Everybody, please welcome Gail Carriger. Finishing school.
An excuse so you can all get an ass shot. I believe this is what's commonly called a sausage fest.
What does that mean?
Oklahoma.
Doesn't mean no.
It's so good to meet you.
It's nice to meet you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You have no idea who I am. It's easy.
I know a lot more now.
Yeah. When is the next book coming out?
The last book in the Parasol Protectorate series comes out March 1st officially, which means it kind of trickles into stores a little before that. And the new series is going to be in probably September of next year, so there'll be 2. And there's a manga as well. That's also in March, I hope. You can't push artists. They have to be allowed to take their time. So we don't want to say when the print release date is for that. I'm sure you know how it goes.
When did you first write for publication? How long have you been doing this as a pro?
Well, my mom likes to say I was 8. And I wrote an undoubtedly brilliant allegorical story about a cat and a flying carpet, which she swears is genius. But I started writing for publication probably when I was around 14 or 15. My best friend at the time got a short story published in Sword and Sorceress. And it wasn't that I was jealous or anything, it was just like, oh, can real people get published? And therein lied my path.
They did.
I've actually talked to many other writers who said they first started writing, I met one writer who said he read something by Lynn Carter and said, I can do better than that.
That's what kept me trying to get published.
Yeah. Terrific. When did was the Parasol Protectorate, was Solace your first novel, or did you have any books before that?
Oh, I'm one of those writers who has a bunch of books that now, after being published, I realize why those ones didn't get published and shouldn't get published. I have 10 years worth of novels. And fortunately for my first readers, I have one series a trilogy that I wrote 2.5 books in and never finished. And those poor girls read those books and slaved over them with me and will never know the ending to that trilogy. I know.
Who inspired you, either as a writer or as a fashion maven or a steampunk? I mean, who are your influences?
Tamora Pierce is probably my all-time, and more because of her, I met all of my friends, and my friends then creep into my books in one way or another because they're reading them and telling me how bad they are, or because they're drunk and then turn into a character. So she's sort of my writing. There are plenty. I could like most writers, I'm a reader, so I could just reel off the names of all of the mostly female authors that I would stout. But yeah.
Okay, great. Several weeks ago, I sent an email out, and one of the questions I asked was, do you have any wacky, interesting, or embarrassing stories? And you mentioned that I might want to ask you about the first time you met a fan of yours.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. I'm going to try and tell the story and still be circumspect. And this was right after Solace had been published, so within just a couple of days, and it had hit the shelves, and it was all a crazy, surreal experience to me. And I walked into a little independent bookstore in San Francisco that shall remain nameless, but which I love very, very well and talk about a lot. And because they're really, really nice to the sci-fi community. And I walked in and they said, oh, we know who you are. And that was unusual to start with. And they said, oh, you have to go meet the girl at the till because she loves your book. And I was like, oh, how nice, this is great. And so I went up and I said, hi, I'm Gail Carriger. And she went, and I went, I don't know how to react to that.
Can I tell you something? That has never happened to me once.
Don't expect it to, Brad.
But no, she's actually, and for me, a lot of the way my books have sold and the way people have become enamored of them and they became popular is because I managed to get a fan who worked at an independent bookstore and who just took it upon themselves to essentially become my pimp. And I can only assume that she was a little bit more articulate when she was talking to
Well, it's funny.
You asked.
What I wanted to do since you now.
You know I was only joking about the sausage fest, right?
I wanted to have a tea party because I know you're heavily into the tea.
Yes.
So I wanted to have a tea party. Yes, please pass these along. No, not yet. Not yet. There shall be. Unfortunately, I was unable to find a way to keep the tea hot on the stage during the ceremonies, but I did find a way to keep the Shiner Bock cold. Oh, of course, thank you. So, we're going to have a tea party here while Tim makes some general announcements.
All right, while they're enjoying their tea party, thanks for coming to FenCon Opening Ceremonies. I have a couple announcements. If you showed up earlier today and you got one of the blue polyester bags, they're defective, not the ones from the dealer's room, the ones that were the front of the fence bags as you checked in. Come back and we've got better, newer bags that won't fall apart on you. Let's see. We're doing parties tonight and tomorrow night. I know tonight there is a World Pieces of Chocolate. Oh, come on, I'm trying to make announcements here. World Pieces of Chocolate. One in 2014. Octopoticon is having, of all things, a tea. And there are probably other parties, and if anybody's throwing a party tonight and wants to yell, ApolloCon? Octopoticon, right? In room 2008. Oh, there's also a fanzine lounge after dark. I'm not sure what that means. Boom chicka wah wah. And we did run a little bit late, but so if you're looking for the concerts afterwards, we're going to try to rush the time between, but everybody's going to get their full allotted 50-minute set, and we'll crush down the in-between time to try to get that on schedule. Thank you for coming to FenCon, and if we can ever get these lushes off our stage, then we can set up for Joe Becker. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your kind indulgence. Welcome to FenCon and FenCon.
Cutlet.
It's our quick group.
Okay. Well, the FenCon VIII opening ceremonies has ended. This is Spaceman 42 signing off for now.